Now we come to Unit 2. Unit 2 is about renewable and non-renewable resources. What do we mean by a resource? Resource is anything available in nature which you can use for your advantage. A resource is something which you can use for your advantage. You want to manufacture paper, if you want to manufacture this tool, if you want to manufacture a tube light, you need certain other materials. You need chemicals, you need water, you need electricity, you need manpower, many other things. Yeah, machines, materials, management, and so on. These are the examples of resources. Anything which we can use to produce something else is called a resource. Now, resources in this nature are two types: renewable and non-renewable. Renewable resources are the ones which you can replenish again and again. It comes on and on and on. For example, solar energy. I mean, we've been using the light, we've been using the sun's bountiful solar energy again and again. In this nature, the light is there. Without light we cannot live, and the solar energy technically is renewable, although one day if the sun goes away, I can't talk about it, but then certainly solar energy, air, wind, water, tides, soil, okay, all these things which are given to us by God as a natural resources available are said to be renewable resources. Renew, you can use it again and again. That's what the meaning of renewable. Renewable means which you can use it again and again. It will replenish itself again and again. Use the sunlight today, tomorrow again it comes. Use the water today, tomorrow again the water is there. Air, any amount of air you inhale and exhale, again the air is there. So something which will not go down just because of your use is renewable. Fortunately, we have renewable resources such as solar energy, air, wind, water, soil and plants, natural forests and so on, which grows by the gift of the God, and then they are all natural resources. There is another category of resources which are non-renewable resources. So, by the meaning, it is the opposite of renewable resources. So, how do we define the non-renewable resources? Resources which deplete, which exhaust, which finish after some time, or non-renewable resources. Fossil fuels, oil, coal, natural gas. For example, we have a lot of oil in the Gulf countries. We are digging the wells and taking out the oil. Do you think after several decades and several centuries the oil is going to be there underneath ever? No, it is not. It's going to finish. That is why we call it as non-renewable energy. So iron ore, for example, copper, aluminium, salt, okay, phosphates, various minerals and metals available on the earth, inside the earth, they are all non-renewable because they are limited in their availability. And although coal, for example, okay, coal is there for the last 100 years, we've been digging coal and it's all going to be there. I can take out any amount of coal which I want. It's not that. It is the coal is a non-renewable resource in as much as your aluminium ore or any other minerals and metals. So we have it is also God given, it is also available in the nature, but then certain things available in the nature are non-renewable resources like coal and oil. The certain things which are available in nature, sunlight, water, or renewable resources. So we have resources of two types, renewable and non-renewable resources. Now, what are the challenges which are coming? Now, the challenge which is coming is, once when the population was very low and the man was living in harmony with when there were, let's say, two people, Adam and Eve, on this earth, there was no problem. They had a lot of trees, a lot of fruits, a lot of things they could go and pluck, and then they live happily. There is no pressure on the atmosphere, on the trees, or on the surrounding renewable and non-renewable resources. But then as the population grew, we grew into millions, we grew into billions. There is almost 7 billion people on this earth. There are 1.25 billion people in India, there are 1.5 or more people in China, and so on. So we have population which is growing, 1.5 to 2% growth rate of the population. And then as the population grows, the population has to have its sustenance, has to increase the quality of life, has to fulfill its ever changing needs. Resources are limited, wants are unlimited. Human wants are growing and growing ever, and the resources are coming down and down and down ever. This gap, this vacuum between the availability of resources and ever increasing wants are putting a lot of pressure on the nature, and that's the biggest challenge. We are cutting the trees, consequential problems. We are overusing the water, we are heating the temperature, climate, problem. So we have been discussing about all these things. So what do we do? The biggest takeaway from this course is to learn how the destruction, man destroying the nature, can be mitigated, can be eliminated. This is the biggest challenge. And how the man is doing, for example, if you look at the natural resources, let me take one by one. Forest. Now we are cutting the forests for several applications like housing, railway construction, and then paper manufacturing, firewood in the villages. So as far as the forest is concerned, there are different ways in which you can protect the forest, you can grow the forest. ITC Bhadrachalam had shown the way of planting the trees on barren lands, empty lands, useless lands, hills and valleys, so that these trees grow, although they would cut it later on, but these trees would grow, and in the process avoid cutting of natural forests, which the earth needs to sustain itself, to keep the water, keep the rains, keep everything together, so that is undisturbed. And then the need for manufacturing paper, need for firewood and so on. So what is happening is the government is giving lands, and the private sector is taking the lands from rural areas, rural people, to see that these lands which are otherwise not used enough, except for grazing, otherwise not used enough, they are used for raising plantations, putting up the trees, thereby contributing to the greening of the environment, and then in the process also get the wood which is required. So it is a beautiful symbiotic relationship, it's a beautiful mutual dependence, it's a nice way of reducing dependence on natural forests, and a wonderful way of creating artificial trees, creating trees by man, the forest, the man-made forest. We have done in ITC, we have done lakhs of hectares of wastelands have been planted, so that is contributed. Now there is another problem of firewood. In fact, the wood which is used for the paper making and construction is very limited, but the large part of the wood which comes from the forest is used for firewood, for cooking purpose in the villages, with all the tribal areas, because in India 60% of the population or more depends on the firewood in the villages and in the forest areas. So what happens is these people would cut the trees, dry it out, and use it as firewood. The government has done a lot of research and created chullas which use less, which don't use the wood in the first place, by promoting what is called a methane gas. You may have seen in some villages there is a small plant where they put the cow dung, they bring cow dung, pedicalo and all that, they put it in that, and then after some time it would generate methane gas. That methane gas can be used for cooking purposes, therefore the firewood need for firewood is eliminated. And the designing of chulas, okay, normally in the villages what happens is that we just put some bricks and then put firewood, lit it, and then it goes half of, or more than half of the heat is wasted. Now the government has come out with a research, and then chulas have been designed in such a way that whatever heat which it generates is fully utilized, or 80%, 90% utilized. These are the efforts which are going on to prevent the destruction of forests on this earth. Now we come to the second important resource called water. Now water is required for drinking purposes. More importantly, water is also required for irrigation purposes. Now as the temperature raises, the rains are becoming scarce. In my childhood I used to see a lot of rains. In 60s, in 50s and 60s and even mid 70s, we used to have a lot of rains for 4 months, 5 months, continuous rains used to be there, huge rains, Vadagallu, rains with thunders, showers, and rains with ice falling and things like that. So that we can't see anymore now anyway, because the rain has become less and less. It's become because of various disturbances in the nature that we've been talking about. Now when the rains don't come, when there are no rains, what happens is, first of all, the groundwater is depleted. When you put a bore, water doesn't come, so you have water problem. Secondly, there is no water for irrigation. Therefore, it is necessary that we supplement the water, and then the government long ago has thought of connecting all the rivers, because we have so many rivers. What are the rivers? We have Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, we have Krishna, Godavari, Tungabhadra kind of rivers we have, and you would be surprised to know that this river water finally goes and meets the oceans, and all the water flows into the ocean. So government thought that how this drainage of water into oceans can be stopped. There was a scientist called K.L. Rao Garu, Dr. K.L. Rao, who suggested to the government of India that we must connect all the rivers and see that instead of going into the water, going into the ocean, the water must come to the fields, help the irrigation and so on. So that is a multi-billion-dollar project which the government is still thinking. But then projects like Polavaram, when Nehru was there, we constructed Bakaranangal project, we constructed Kinnarsani project, we constructed Nagarjuna Sagar project. See, these are the projects which are meant for in the catchment area the water is stored, so that water can be diverted for irrigation. But that's not enough. That was only about 10-20% of what, because the need has grown after that due to the increase in population. The increase in population is huge right now, and it's going to grow only. So therefore, to meet the water requirements of growing population, it is necessary that we construct more projects of using the river waters, and therefore the Polavaram project, the other Kaleshwaram project, and many of the projects are taking over. But then there are issues also. If you look at Godavari, for example, Godavari starts in Maharashtra and ends in Andhra. So in between you have several places where the Maharashtra government is constructing the dams, stopping the water. So the government of people of Andhra, not Telangana and Andhra are not getting water. So they crib about it. They complain to the government. So there is a tribunal which looks after all these intergovernmental problems, and with Krishna River also we had problems and so on. They are being resolved, but suffice to say that there is a way of more sensibly using the water, river water, right? So let us hope in future we will construct more dams and we connect all these rivers so that not even a single drop of water goes into the oceans, and each drop of water which is available is utilized. So we talked about the land, we talked about the forest, we talked about water. What about the land? Land is another beautiful and life sustaining resource which God has provided, and then we are increasingly destroying the very base on which we are living. Soil erosion, for example, is one big problem. Okay, and because of overgrazing, because of over cultivation, the ability of the land, okay, is becoming less and less productive. Land is becoming less and less productive because of overuse. The research is on to see that we don't overuse the land, and we replenish the land with natural manures and so on, so that the land remains in its original glory. So similarly, we have many other resources which are undergoing depletion, and the government and people have to work together to see that whatever damage we cause to these natural resources, we bring back to the thing and we improve upon, so that the increasing population will get increasing benefit of these resources. That's about the challenges that we face, and we have today talked about the renewable and non-renewable resources, and the unit 1 covered about the meaning, scope, importance and awareness. The second unit covered about the renewable and non-renewable resources, what are the problems which are surfacing time to time because of the overuse, and what are some of the examples of solutions that we can attempt in order to see that not only the government but also the people, each solution has to become a people's movement. It has to be with the involvement of the people. It's not that you do your job morning till evening and go away, and this environment, this forest, this air and this water ever remains like that. No, you need to see that you play a role, you contribute, you think about it, and you have an emotional attachment with the nature, that it is mine, I need to protect it, so that we don't land up in a situation where the living conditions so beautifully provided on this earth will go away, and we land up in a situation where the very life on this earth is threatened to live, and we become a barren land like any other planet. Hope our prayers and sense prevail upon us to act better as a people's movement.